Good day, everyone. So, is Sukokomon still relevant in 2023? Well, I honestly don't know. But we're still just sort of going to play it in this video. Of course, I'm not going to stick to the book. You'll see me running all sorts of random builds because I can, and I think I'm confident that these builds can reasonably clear these spiral abyss. So, it's going to be whatever. You can obviously make and tweak and adjust it to be a lot better. But I think the point about Sukokomon is more so how we play it. And to be quite frank, I haven't played this team in a very, very long time, so I'm very, very rusty on it. But we'll have a bit of a squiz at it and see what we can do. As far as why I don't use this team very, very often, I think it's because in the last few Spiral Abysses and so on, it's kind of fallen a bit off, especially since like the Ruined Snake sort of era, where the boss moves quite a lot and you've got a bunch of set constructs, for instance, Fischl, Kokomi's jellyfish, and then of course the little guava that you need to swirl. It really does make it hard for this team to respond dynamically, and of course it's also because this team's got a very rigid structure in terms of how you need to play it. You can see on obviously on screen that's sort of the rotation. Hopefully I got this 100% correct, but that's the rotation you need to play with Sukokomon. And if you don't play it as it is here, and you don't play it sensibly in an alternative way, you actually lose quite a bit of damage. So it's not just pressing some random buttons. It's definitely a team you need to be very, very aware of, or in terms of like what you're doing, what your timing is. You can see here, we started off by swirling guava, and of course we get the overload if you've paid attention on screen. Quite a lot of like effects happening all at once. And then of course, yeah, now we're just sort of in the main damaging phase. Of course, all of the constructs hitting the enemy, and then Xiangling and Kokomi getting that vaporize, crucial vaporize off. And now it's just Fischl gonna sort of taking it home for us. So in this case, Sukokomon really doesn't do too badly against the Perpetual Mechanical Array. I think my builds I know are not like theoretically optimal or as it's sort of recommended, so you should be able to take this thing out in like one single rotation. So this is not too bad, but it is whatever. One of the problems you might find with PMA is that you might have us not being on cooldown, or this enemy flying away, or another one going underground or jumping around, and so you've got to be like sometimes a bit more patient. And this is the thing about Sukokomon. Even though the theory says, you've got to play this rotation, sometimes you've got to hold a bit back, and you sometimes got to compromise a bit, just for practicality's sake, because if you just do it 100% according to a book, we might have actually had a situation where that little ruin flying thing might have just like dashed away, and then, well, there's all your damage. So yeah, the other problem with Sukokomon is like, what do you do when you don't have elemental burst? Well, it's kind of not too bad. In this case, you'll see here we're just going to try and extend our rotations a bit until we can get Xiangling to be online, and then Kokomi 1 second more or less afterwards. That's how you know you've got like more than enough energy. And then once you've got Xiangling and Kokomi's elemental burst, you more or less have some of the core ingredients. But you can see here we're clearly out of sync with Fischl. We're out of sync in terms of the rotation, and this is a key weakness to Sukokomon. If you don't have all your elemental burst when you start a chamber, well, this is the sort of thing that happens. You kind of lose damage. It's like with a lot of other teams, and I think this is where I loved like the Nilou Bloom teams, because even if you don't have any elemental burst, you're still doing damage. Your skills can still carry you, and this is one of the things that I sort of want to point out here with Sukokomon. Kokomi, Fischl, Sucrose not really having the problem, but Xiangling without her elemental burst is a significant DPS loss. It would be actually quite useful if we could replace Xiangling with a character that has off-field pyro, applying consistently, but just on her E ability. I think that in itself would significantly be like a big boost to Sukokomon. Look, I've never been really a Xiangling fan, and definitely once you start playing this game quite a lot, you definitely realize that her limitations, especially without Bennett, are very, very significant. But I mean, nonetheless, in Sukokomon, it's not too bad, but it's not as strong of a team as it once felt. So yeah. With regards to how strong this team is, I actually did a bit of a funky little experiment. So I went onto my alt account and I actually took my C0 Nilou without her best in slot with no Nahida, and I sort of wanted to ask myself, well, how does this team compare to Sukokomon? And well, let's just sort of see how they do against DPMA. Obviously, you can do multiple of these comparisons. This is obviously a flawed comparison because we haven't really standardized the artifacts and strengths between two teams and whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is, I want to sort of highlight to you how I can get similar results just on my account and builds, and to sort of give you a bit of a surprising sort of result as to how strong Nilou Bloom teams are if you really know like how to sort of play them. So just like with Sukokomon, you've got to be very careful in terms of your timing, your burst management, because we don't have Nahida here, so we don't have consistent like Hydra application. But once you sort of do it and you play a technical team, also I think Nilou teams are pretty technical as well. If you don't think so, try beating up Perpetual Mechanical Rays quickly. You'll find that if you don't get the order correct, it definitely is something. But yeah, you can see here, even though the enemies like Fled and so on, we're not really that bounded towards having certain constructibles on the field, and this is what's so cool about this team, and it just delivers. So now we've just got a consistent Hydro, Dendro application and so on, and we're going to beat this in about 8:42. By the way, if you want to see this build, I did have a previous video covering this team, so the build hasn't really sort of changed, just a couple of bit of extra EM subsets and so on. So yeah, here is Sukokomon, and I'm now gonna not play it like you saw it the first time. I'm gonna play it my way, because if I just literally ditch the Frilling Tails and give Kokomi her weapon, we can do it much faster. So yes, this is the thing, my Kokomi does more damage than my Xiangling, but I mean, of course, I've got a C6 Kokomi, so she is going to do more damage than Xiangling in this context, mind you. So yeah, we're just sort of going to let this play out and then get the same time as the Nilou team. But it does show you that, and I think this is one of the big points I made last year, the fact that you can get there are different ways of getting the same amount of damage like on the field is one of the reasons why a character, for instance like Xiangling, is so overrated. And a lot of people were very angry at me for making a video like that, but more and more we are seeing this, we can see this, and even in Sukokomon, which was supposed to be a team that made Kokomi her meta team and whatever, I think that's just good nonsense. We can clearly see that a team like this highlights the big weakness in a character like Xiangling. And that's why I'm so excited for these alternative teams, Dendro, because we just have so many new ways of playing, and that to me always keeps the game excited. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Cheers.